First things first, I'm going to apologize for my demeanor. I just got through a relatively annoying call, and it's another reminder of how we talk about the internet and the people that are on there and how they're designed to screw things up and make things kind of aggravating. But we have these people in real life that when they get together and sort of unknowingly collaborate with people online, it just turns into more of a frustrating process. Because I was getting ready to go on here and smile and pretend to be in some great, wonderful mood. I don't really have anyone around, so I can actually speak louder than usual, which is fantastic. But we're gonna still find ourselves limited by that previous thing. So let's delve into it. And I again feel it will be noticeable as we go on. President Trump on Friday offered his first explanation for ordering the reversal of North Korea-related sanctions announced by his own Treasury Department last week, attributing it to his personal rapport with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. We understand each other, Trump told reporters at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. They are suffering greatly in North Korea. They're having a hard time in North Korea, and I just didn't think additional sanctions at this time were necessary. Doesn't mean I don't put them on later, he added. But I don't think that additional sanctions at this time were. Didn't they repeat that? Yeah, I guess he repeated himself. Sometimes these articles have errors, so things like that stick out to me a little bit more. He added it is very important to maintain a relationship with Kim, telling reporters that the two men have a really good understanding. Trump sparked widespread confusion last week when he tweeted that he had ordered the withdrawal of large-scale sanctions announced by the U.S. Treasury Department against North Korea, but the Treasury had not announced sanctions that day. The department had publicized sanctions one day earlier on two Chinese shipping companies accused of helping North Korea evade existing sanctions. So I think this is a good move because, like I said before, the people of these countries, right, whether it's the U.S., Israel, wherever the hell, anytime you put sanctions on them, on the country, the people suffer instead of the leaders who are the ones most likely to be the reason for why we have hostilities between us. What does that entail? So if you put sanctions on North Korea as a whole instead of on particular officials or people at the top, it's going to affect regular people more likely than it is to affect those in positions of power. This is the same thing we did with Iran, where you had a story of someone who wasn't able to get their medicine from the U.S. because of a sanction that we put over there. A person who had nothing to do with Khomeini or any of the supreme leaders' nonsense, and they messed with them. So I know a lot of times it seems like the Trump hate channel, and I try to make it not be that way because, I think the one area where I generally am very, very consistent on is non-aggressive related foreign policy. So, that anytime that happens, I'm a lot more lenient to say, okay, I can see this when I'm not going to say anything bad about that. Because I genuinely want that scenario to be resolved with North Korea. And that second summit was a big letdown, no matter which side you believe was the villain. It didn't go the way that it should have gone. Another news story today, the Trump administration announced Friday it would award a $1.7 million family planning grant to a chain of crisis pregnancy centers that oppose abortion and don't offer contraceptives, while at the same time cutting funds to some Planned Parenthood affiliates. The Obria Group, which considers itself the pro-life version of Planned Parenthood, says it will receive a grant to provide family planning services in California. The administration's decision to fund Obria is a signal of its desire to shift family planning funds toward faith-based groups that oppose abortions and away from groups like Planned Parenthood. Many women this is in quotations, want the opportunity to visit a professional comprehensive healthcare facility, not an abortion clinic, for their healthcare needs. This grant will give them that choice. Kathleen Eaton Bravo, founder and CEO of the Obria Group, said in a statement. Obria will oversee the work of 7 clinic partners, including 3 of its affiliates that don't provide contraceptives or perform abortions, in 4 California counties. Oh, great. They've come to my state. What a wonderful thing that is. What a great occurrence. The group said in a statement. So this screams Pence all over it, the vice president, and all of the other people who are much more. I don't dispute the idea of Trump being pro-life, but it's another one of those things where I'm convinced there's someone else influencing him to even be okay with any of that stuff. Kind of like how I'm very convinced he probably would have wanted to get out of Afghanistan if his foreign policy team or advisors didn't sit up there and tell him, if we get out of there, the world's going to end, and oh my God, things are going to go to hell. Even though we've been in hell for almost 20 years now, but it's another one of those things where it's just people in the back pushing, not really pulling the strings like, oh, I have some dirt on you, so you must act the way I want, but just being more passionate about than he is, because we've talked about what issues you can tell he actually is serious about, and what stuff is just somebody else there is pushing or otherwise trying to go after with. Man, all this stuff is Trump news. I really wish we could get a little bit more of a variety here. Oh, here we go. And I'm on the Hill for those that want to know where I get my news from, because I like it more than a lot of the other news sources. Just the layout of the website and whatnot. Senator Jeff Merkley announced on Friday that he is introducing legislation to abolish the Electoral College as part of a package of election reform bills. It's time to end the undemocratic Electoral College and to ensure a path to full voting representation for all American citizens, regardless of whether they live in Portland or Puerto Rico, Merkley said in a statement. The bill would propose a constitutional amendment to nix the Electoral College and elect the president by a direct popular vote. Merkley, as part of the We the People Democracy Blueprint released earlier this year, argued that the current system for electing a president is profoundly unfair and has resulted in 2 elections over the past 2 decades where candidates didn't win the popular vote but still won the White House. That's absolutely correct. I think it was Jimmy Dore who said that out of the last 5 presidential elections, 40% were won by the person who didn't even get the most votes. So I like this idea, but I know it won't get anywhere because Congress is there's not enough Democrats in there, and they're more often to be the ones who get the popular vote in these particular things. I think that if it were the other way around, where it was Republicans who were getting the popular vote and then losing the Electoral College, you would see Republicans doing the same thing. So that it's motivated by the positions of both sides. Even though, like I said before, as someone that wasn't a fan of Hillary, I couldn't care less that she didn't get elected. But I do think the person who gets the most votes should win the election. That doesn't mean immediately get rid of the Electoral College, but it does mean there needs to be something done to make it to where there can't be a person who loses by millions of votes and then still ends up being the winner. So it's more complicated than just abolish it, ha 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 ha. Especially since we're not really in that kind of era where people are going to just automatically want to yank the whole thing altogether, in enough droves. I say hello to Cortez. Yeah, we're doing something that is unprecedented. We're discussing a variety of news stories for a couple of minutes and then going to something else. This poll that came out, I think is pretty interesting. Just 36% of registered voters say the report submitted by special counsel Robert Mueller clears President Trump of any wrongdoing, according to an NPR PBS poll released Friday. 56% say they think questions still exist about Trump, while 9% say they are unsure. The poll showed broad support for the release of the full report, the culmination of Mueller's investigation into the Russian interference, being called from someone in Rhode Island. And off subject, I hate that so much when you're doing something and I'm doing a video with the computer. I need to use the phone at the same time to look at the stuff, and then just somebody cuts it off. They interrupt the flow of it. So the poll shows broad support for the release of the full report, the culmination of Mueller's investigation into the Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, but showed a mixed response to questions about what Democrats should do next. 75% say Mueller's complete report should be made public, compared to 18% who say the 4-page summary released by Attorney General William Barr is enough. This is what I'm talking about. For as much as frustrating as this stuff gets, you have to think to yourself, if Trump supporters, and you can see from that poll, if they actually believe Trump is innocent, no collusion, whatever, why the hell wouldn't you want the full thing to be out there? But like I said, there's that 18% is like, yeah, this this little summary, we can keep that. That's cool. That's good. Like yeah, Cortez is saying, I know, right? To in response to the thing with the random phone calls from people all over the world, and because we live in the fake news era, where basically any news story that is against our political leaning, we like immediately denounce as not being true. It's sad because now people who think that thing is enough are going to go, oh, they just inflate the numbers. There's a lot more people like me. So you can already see that there's that tint of the people have. All right, let's go to the next thing. Oh, what a wonderful joy this is! My lovely senator had something to say about the Obamacare repeal. If this thing will load, yeah, you get this high speed internet, and then it just acts like not high speed, but it's some kind of they always advertise it as being this great wonderful thing, and then you actually use it and it's trash, like absolute garbage, scum of the earth. All right, so this should work. Um, Senator Kamala Harris and Attorney General William Barr a letter Friday demanding answers over the Justice Department's efforts to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Harris, one of over a dozen Democrats running for president next year, cited Barr's commitment during his confirmation hearing to reconsider the Justice Department's opposition to Obamacare and hammered the Attorney General over his reading of the law. I am deeply, wish I could do the Harris voice. That's how they trick you. What do you mean, Cortez? It's because I'm just speaking so fast, but let me do the Harris voice. I am deeply concerned, Harris wrote. This is an extreme and legally flawed position that threatens the healthcare and economic security of millions of Americans. I urge you to examine the effects of your decision. Oh yeah, the scammers online are the scammers who try to get you to buy their internet and then they end up it's trash. If upheld, the Texas ruling would cause serious harm to millions of Americans. Nearly 20 million Americans could lose their health insurance. Protections for pre-existing conditions, my mistake, would be eliminated. Seniors would pay more for prescription drugs, and many young adults would no longer be able to stay on their parents' insurance until the age of 26. So, I said before, I think Obamacare is a law that it's better than nothing, but I prefer single payer. But here's my problem with this letter, right? And it's not just Harris; it's kind of a thing of politicians in general. BBS, this is the news. We're not talking about chicks today, so you're gonna have to come back some other week. Here's a person who, in her entire public career, right, because she became Attorney General or was elected the same year that Obamacare became law. She was Attorney General for the entire time that this law had to be defended by Obama, and said nothing about it. And this is kind of my problem, that a lot of these people who, when they're in these positions of power, because whatever it is doesn't fall under their jurisdiction, they're able to actually get away with just completely not discussing something of importance. Okay, David asks, can we actually get that want to run for office, and what to see if they're healthy and mentally stable? I don't even I'm not sure. I just know that I don't I'd say no. Not to say that it's not important, but I would say no because the qualifications are living in well, I haven't seen health be listed as a qualification for running for office. We actually had one person who got elected after they died. So it's if it's not relating to age or residency, I don't think so. Like if it's actually a law on the books. Now, if you want to get people to say, hey, we should amend the Constitution to do this, all right, then that's something we can do. But I don't think it's an actual law, to answer your question, David. But like I was saying, you have this person who was in this high profile position as Attorney General of the largest state while this law was getting called unconstitutional, blah, 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 and nothing about it until she becomes senator. Now suddenly she's one of the ACA's most passionate defenders, and she's gonna, do all this stuff to protect it. It's, more grandstanding. And again, that's coming from someone that doesn't like the idea of going from the ACA or Obamacare, whichever way you want to refer to it, to nothing. But we can still see through who's a shapeshifter and who actually cares about healthcare because she had a single payer bill brought up by the California Senate when she was Attorney General. Didn't say a word about it. It's a little load. And my screen was actually loading, and it took me a little bit of time to end up responding to the stories because my high-speed internet was acting highly crappy or high trash. The pinnacle of mediocrity. No, it's just news in general. I've done like 4 stories already. I just go from one thing to another. I'm on the front page of the Hill because I realized the more I sit here and wade my brain and say, do I want to talk about this one thing for 40 minutes or talk about all these different things for 2 or 3 minutes? So yeah, I'll do the 2 or 3 minute one. So that answers your question. I hope it does. I hope you're not dazed and confused like a certain character that will probably end up getting talked about soon. The White House is warning Russia and other foreign nations against sending troops to Venezuela to help embattle President Nicolas Maduro maintain his grip on power. We strongly caution actors external to the Western Hemisphere. I love how they always try to sound like scholars, and then you can just chalk up what they're doing in such simple words. Against deploying military assets to Venezuela. If there's such assets, why are they so easily deployed and expendable as to fight in a country that has done nothing to us, or elsewhere in the hemisphere with the intent of establishing or expanding military operations? National Security Advisor John Bolton said in the statement Friday. I can't stand that weasel. Got people talk about impeach Trump, impeach Bolton. That's my least favorite person holding office, probably at least in my lifetime. I can't stand that clown. Wants to have war with Iran, North Korea, wants to go to Venezuela, everywhere. Fight the world. Hey, remember, what was that book called? Was it Scott Pilgrim versus the World or something, like Bolton versus the World? No, U.S. versus the world. By the end of his tenure as National Security Advisor, we're going to be in like 6 or 7 more wars. Countries you never heard of. Oh, my God. The American empire and its neo-colonialism machine march on. Thankfully, Russia seems to be taking Venezuela's side. Well, that's why, going back to what you're saying, Lode, that's why all that Russia gate crap didn't make sense, because I said to myself, you can't have the U.S. wanting to screw with Venezuela and then have Russia backing Venezuela and have the U.S. fly the INF treaty and then have, like, just too much of it was them doing the polar opposite of each other. Hopefully that deters us from invading. I'm surprised VVS hasn't fallen asleep yet, because if you're not talking about those wonderful fine ladies of the modern era, he doesn't want to have a discussion. He doesn't want to participate. Oh man. Okay, I think that's pretty much that's the stuff on here. Oh, let's do some presidential polls. I love these polls because every time one of these doesn't fit, like I said, someone's position, then they say, oh, that's not true. Let me read David's comments. Some scientists are concerned with military AI. What are thoughts on artificial intelligence? What are my thoughts or the chats? Because my thoughts, it's if it's regulated properly, I think it can be used effectively. My only problem is when you start trying to replace everybody with machines, because there's certain things computers can't do. Like I'm still kind of cautious about the automated vehicles, because I do think those are like, just if I have an automated toaster, right, and that thing doesn't work, okay, fine, I'm not getting my toast. If an automated vehicle doesn't work, somebody could get killed. So there's a varying levels of what I'm comfortable with, basically. Hope that answers the question, maybe, possibly. We're all waiting for Cortez's answer. I eagerly anticipate his response. Watch him like type out a novel. The whole that whole live chat on the side just turns into his like big paragraph. Former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders both hold double-digit leads over President Trump in a hypothetical 2020 White House matchup in the state of Pennsylvania, according to a new poll. I don't even know if this is news, because they know that these states like Pennsylvania, Florida, you could argue Iowa, but I wouldn't lump it in, but definitely Ohio. These are places that can go for either of the nominees, whoever it is. So it's weird. An Emerson County College survey released Friday found both men gaining 55% of the vote in a hypothetical general election battle. They make this sound like some kind of anime arc. Hypothetical general election battle with the sitting president, while many other Democrats held single-digit margins over the president in the state. And if I could scroll down past these million ads, Senator Kamala Harris also held a slim lead over the president in the poll with the support of 51% of respondents to Trump's 48%. And I already said before, I think he would beat her, but that's just my opinion in their head-to-head race. Former Texas Representative Beto O'Rourke also slightly led Trump in the poll with support from 51% of voters compared to Trump's 49%. I feel like that's going to be flipped backwards when we actually get to the election. And I said it before that, the people, like, this is how weird people are, right? The same people who are going around saying Trump is going to lose, it's over for you, Orange Buddy, are the same people who, when I say I would only vote for 3 of the people running for president, tell me that I'm going to be the reason he wins. Like, well, if you're so confident, he's not going to win, what is me as one person saying I'm not going to back the Democrat unless it's these couple of people matter? They can't have it both ways. It's kind of like the same people who will say that I was going to do this story, but I decided not to do it. There was a town hall, and I think Load might have seen it with Booker, and they asked him. CNN loves to cut out. I don't know why they can't just put the full thing on YouTube, but that makes too much sense. They cut out this clip of him being asked about Rose, whatever her name is, Dawson, the actress that he's in a relationship with. And in the comment section, you have like conservatives saying that he's gay and ha 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 ha, and that's a cover and all this crap. I thought was really funny is that during the Kavanaugh hearings, there was a article that Booker wrote about 20 years ago where he was talking about being romantically involved with some female and touching on her and stopping after she did, like basically this was used against him to say, hey, buddy, oh boy, Spartacus, you have some demons of your past in your past that relate to sexual harassment or something of that equivalent with the opposite sex. So it's like you can't have it both ways. You can't say that he is a depraved predator and has been one for decades towards women and then also gay. He's just talking out of both sides of your mouth. All right. Kazir says, check out. I don't know what that is. Cortez, I think the plan to replace. Oh, you guys talking about that. I thought you were discussing what I was saying. Let me be quiet and read the chat room. Just hush. And then the attraction of the video is just gonna be me sitting here just going. Load says, yep. David says, true. And then somebody else writes something else, and we just goes on back and forth. I didn't even know that AI thing was still going on. I thought it was just he asked me, Cortez says something. That's that. Maybe people are getting bored, I guess. This is not from. Is this from today? I don't think it is. I could have sworn I saw this yesterday. Yeah, this is yesterday. Senator Rand Paul blocked a resolution calling for Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report to be made public, arguing that the Congress should also call for the release of communications and testimony from the Obama-era officials. Senator Amy Cloud Bootjar, as Secular Talk likes to call her, who is one of several Democratic senators running for president, tried to get unanimous consent for the Senate to pass the resolution, which cleared the House in a 420-0 vote earlier this month. We still have not seen the report. I have urged the Department of Justice to release the report, and the administration should not delay in producing the report to Congress, Cloud Bootjar said, rather. But Paul objected because Cloud Bootjar, I keep forgetting, wouldn't agree to amend the non-binding resolution to include provisions calling for the public release of communications between several Obama-era officials, including former President Obama, former FBI Director James Comey, and former CIA Director John Brennan. We need to know, was there malfeasance? Was there misuse of power? Did President Obama's administration get involved in the election to infiltrate the Trump campaign to trap them? We need to know that, he said. We need to discover, and we do not yet know, was President Obama involved? So like I said before, I like Rand on foreign issues. I think he's really consistent on being against war. Domestic stuff, he is really at the bottom of the barrel. But if they want to do an investigation of them and there's nothing that actually is there, I'm all for it. So it probably is grandstanding, but it is what it is. What are your thoughts on what Puerto Rico government says about Trump not wanting to meet up? I think they're telling the truth. They if I remember correctly, he still hasn't admitted the actual what do you call it, number of people that were killed in that incident. Like, I think he denies an actual Puerto Rico denier. That's insane to me. Best thing, oh my god, I'm not even gonna read that load. I don't support violence toward anybody, because I think that for as bad as a lot of these politicians are, like when it happens, I'm not gonna get sad, but I'm not gonna go like, yeah, I'm glad this person got shot. So that's just my position on that. I appreciate it, David. I try to do the best of impressions, or a lot of times if it's someone that I have a hard time doing the voice of, I just try to exaggerate it, because I could picture them actually thinking they're saying something that's impassioned and is getting the people and all that. Coke Group launches ads again. Oh, let's do this. What fun. A group backed by GOP mega donor Charles Koch is launching an ad blitz pushing lawmakers to reject Senator Elizabeth Warren's proposal to break up tech giants. Americans for Prosperity, also known as AFP. I thought that was FAP for a moment. Let's go. A Koch-funded free market group is running ads in Washington, D.C., and in the home state of lawmakers on the Senate Judiciary Committee against Warren's proposal. Don't politicize antitrust laws, the ads will urge lawmakers. If we use antitrust law to punish successful competitors, we eliminate incentives for innovation, Billy Isley, a senior tech policy analyst at AFP, said in a statement Friday. Government should not be empowered to pick winners and losers, blah, 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 in the marketplace. And there is a reason we have regulatory enforcement agencies like the Federal Trade Commission to prevent the politicization of this process, he added. Our ads are reminding lawmakers on both sides of the aisle that antitrust law exists to protect consumers, not to be used as a political weapon. So, we've mentioned this a little bit before, that whenever you have monopoly, whenever a company has monopoly on something, rather, they're allowed to get away with a lot more malpractices than someone who has competitors, like how we were talking about, what was it, half of online purchases going through Amazon, or maybe even larger. So because of that, it's CEO Bezos thinks he can get away with paying get away with paying workers below the minimum wage and hiring them in ways that actually do give them less than the bottom of the barrel. And it's the same thing with YouTube, where this website, because they have no serious competitor, Dailymotion is out there, but no one uses it, and Vimeo is the same way. They're allowed to get away with fusing with Google and making it to where you have to have a Gmail account, and making it to where certain things you must do just to post stuff on this site. And they're able to push people around in that manner because they have no competitor who says, hey, we need to be inclusive of other emails, basically. That's just one complaint, but there's other stuff we can go into. Like, I remember YouTube at one point, and they're still doing this. They tried to get a thing where, if you use a computer and you're watching a YouTube video, you can put it in one tab and then go to another tab. They had a thing where they were trying to get people to pay for the option or the feature on the phone to leave the YouTube app and have the video still play. I thought that was crazy. That's even actually something that you would feel you can reasonably expect people to buy. And when I saw it, I couldn't believe it. But again, those are the kind of things they can get away with when they're that's why they need to be broken up. So, or have competition in YouTube's particular case. So, same thing with Twitter, where no one else really has a website where they can kind of just post stuff to each other in like an open form kind of manner. Facebook a little bit, but not that much. So they think they can get away with screwing with people's accounts on there, and oh, let's deplatform Alex Jones because ha 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 ha. Well, I don't know what else to say, Lode. You can you don't have to agree with me on everything. I think I've made that fairly clear. Oh, Envoy when he's usually here will would sit around and he likes Shapiro, and I told him before that there are some good things to Shapiro, but that's someone that when I see, oftentimes I just turn the stuff off. Okay, Lode says Bezos is getting away with paying less than minimum wage because the government subsidizes. Oh, I was not intending this miscommunication. I never intended to say he was like now having to do his fair share and all. No, I was saying that he had been able to, through a practice of hiring people part time, not have to pay them the entire wage. And that's obviously another factor, but I just didn't mention it. So it's not me saying Bezos is finally manning up and doing what he's supposed. No, I'm not defending him at all. I'm just saying that was maybe where that disagreement might have come from. I don't think it was a disagreement. I just think it was, again, miscommunication. I like how if you just sit here long enough, you hear all kind of weird stuff going on. Somebody made some dog noise, I guess to impress somebody. And then this other article, President Trump is ramping up his threat to close the U.S.-Mexico border. And, one of the reasons I literally kept this off this long is because I really hate talking about the U.S.'s immigration policy. Like, out of but you want to talk about uncomfortable issues, this is the one for me because it's done this thing over the last 3 years where it's formed this bubble that has completely consumed everything around it. I'm about to read it, Lode. Give me a moment. How that one song go? Give me just a little more time. So Mexico is going to have to do something. Otherwise, I'm closing the border. I'll just close the border, and with the deficit like we have with Mexico and have had for many years, closing the border would be a profit-making operation. When you close the border, also you will stop a lot of the drugs from coming in. Trump told reporters in Florida regarding illegal border crossing. I will close the border if Mexico doesn't get with it. I thought it said get away with it, doesn't get with it. If Mexico doesn't stop it, they come in from Guatemala, they come in from El Salvador, they come in from Honduras, they come in from all over, and they come in from Mexico, and we're working very hard to stop it. Again, one of those things where I just really, even if I don't, again, like this particular, like discussing this, I really would have appreciated if he himself had been asked by those reporters, what exactly are you guys doing? Like, I know the wall proposal thing, but what day by day, week by week is happening, because there's more to it than just, okay, we got the money for the wall, now we can do construction. No, you have to, there's a process involved of other things that are also being, I would think done as well. You just wake up one day, okay, wall's constructed. I've fulfilled none of my campaign promises. Goodbye. So, I wish the reporters would actually ask for specifics. That's something they do with all these candidates and just people that are in office. That's why they let O'Rourke get away with that debut speech in Iowa that I might even actually re-upload on the channel where it's like him just doing this stuff with his hands and his arms. Mark, it's the news for today. I ran out of ideas and I said, all right, let me just talk about a bunch of news stories. And I didn't want to have it be a stream where I sit there and talk about something that could be summed up in 5 minutes for 40 just to pad it out. So maybe that answers your question. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm just speculating. I'm just thinking. All right, more Trump news. You can never have enough Trump. President Trump on Friday signed a presidential permit to jumpstart construction of the Keystone XL oil pipeline with the facility in Montana, a move seen as a way to circumvent previous court orders halting development. Isn't that against the law? The permit authorizes energy company TransCanada Corp to construct, connect, operate, and maintain pipeline facilities between the U.S. and Canada. The permit also allows for the maintenance of a pipeline facility at Phillips County, Montana, for importation of the oil to the U.S. This story got a lot more interesting when I read that line about we're doing it in Montana possibly, again, not Trump himself saying it, but they're possibly doing it to override the court order. It's like, how is it even possible? Like, wouldn't somebody have to go to jail? I guess not when you're at the top. I think I haven't talked about the pipelines since they were last relevant. I'm gonna have to go and refresh my memory on why those were bad. So I don't want to just sit there and go, "Oh my God, this is so horrible." I know that there's something wrong with them to where I was opposed to it, but I don't. They've been out of the loop for so long. So I know they were something that a lot of the progressive, you can even call them that, politicians were pissed at Obama for being a fan of those pipelines. Um, but it has to do with trade and just shipping jobs to other countries, and then wondering why people over here are pissed off when they find out the only reason those jobs were shipped there is because the the people who are in positions of power can pay workers even less than the minimum wage here. Um, so I'll come back to it, at some other point maybe, if anyone actually wants to hear why that is terrible, or why I thought it was bad back then. Maybe my mind has changed. Who knows? I noticed off top of that, have you started looking at anything of the media time? People in the government follow a lot of the witch feeds insanity. I can't believe David would say something off topic. I'm so flabbergasted. It's not like anyone's ever done that before. No one's ever come in here and asked something that wasn't in the title or being discussed at the moment. That's brand new. To answer your question, no. I think basically with me, the earliest I'm excited about history with, or just the earliest period where I get interested, is maybe the 1700s, just because that's when the U.S. starts up in its the capacity that people kind of know it today. So with all the different presidents and Revolutionary War, all that, just stuff of that nature. If that answers your question, as to why I wouldn't go back further than that. It's not something I'm opposed to doing. It's just another one of those things where if there's no immediate push to look into it, I'm not going to go out of my way to look for it. I don't know. I just think I'm really amendable on a lot of, or malleable on a lot of this stuff, where I can kind of, even if I don't necessarily really want it, I'll still show some slight interest to, to position myself as wanting to possibly um, be interested at one point or another. I know that was, me choking all over my words, but my mind was kind of tying itself in binds. I was like, oh, what am I going to say? All right, a group of bipartisan lawmakers on Thursday introduced a bill that would end the National Security Agency's NSA mass collection of U.S. phone data. The bill's introduction by a group of civil libertarian lawmakers comes weeks after a national security aide to House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, or as I like to call him, Crazy McCarthy, in reference to another person that has his last name. Although he is just as crazy. He's just not as crazy too. This particular McCarthy, not Joseph McCarthy, won't go around and like accuse people of being communists, but this one will go around and say things that, because he has kind of this warm, not warm, but calm demeanor, and he's not known for being comedic or funny, he can get away with saying all kind of weird, crazy stuff. And even if he doesn't say it, can go along with it. I'll read your message in a moment, Mark. Let me just read this. The bill's introduction by a group of civic liberty. Okay, I read that already. The Ending Mass Collection of American Phone Records Act would end the program for good, taking away NASA's authority to restart it. The bill was introduced by privacy hawk Senators Ron Wyden and Rand Paul, and Representatives Justin Amash and Zoe Lofgren rather. I would, not to distract from that story, but I would pay close attention to Amash, that name, because that's someone that could possibly end up running and for the Libertarian presidential nomination. And actually, if we do end up getting stuck with someone that isn't one of those three people I mentioned for the Democrats I'd vote for, probably would be my choice to vote for president. At least I'd know he would, actually be serious about wanting to get out of these wars. This bill permanently stops one of the sprawling surveillance state's most intrusive overreaches and is the first step in a movement to reclaim the constitutional liberties sacrificed by the overreaching provisions of the Patriot Act, Paul said in the statement. Yeah, NASA is an absolute disgrace. So I like that bill from what is being written of it and the statements and all that. Will it pass? And that's another problem with and why I tell people that the parties don't automatically mean you know this person's positions. Because like somebody like Feinstein, right? She'll get called a liberal, but then you look at her voting record on the NSA and spying and wiretapping, and she's all for it. So I don't even people just they get these labels and they don't actually think about that person's particular record. Okay, Mark asked me, what was the Federal Reserve printing out money which has no real value to pay off their $1 trillion of debt? Stupid. I always hate answering questions that directly because I think that you probably want a more detailed response. I want to learn more about the current Fed chair, Powell, the one that Trump appointed. So I would like to know more about him before just completely lambasting everything that's going on, because I think when you look at issues relating to a state or some agency, it's important to see who's in charge of it and kind of what exactly is if the mediocrity leaks from the bottom down, the top to the bottom down, rather. So hopefully that answered, maybe, possibly, potentially. I don't know. I got my fingers crossed. I really hope it answered. And the Discord notifications go off. Oh, I always forget that during the streams to close out Discord for the what do you call it, when people just send me a message every now and again. Well, yeah, I just from the way that is written of we're going to print out more money, I think it's stupid. I mean, like the whole point of having more dollars being printed out is it now makes each dollar less valuable than it was if it was an even more limited supply. But I remember there was a news story, and I saw this on Jimmy's channel too, where he was talking about how the U.S. doesn't actually have a limited supply of money, that they just bring up the $1 trillion debt to make people seem like they actually care about reducing it. But then whenever it's one of these ridiculous military budgets, no one ever asks how you're going to pay for it. Or as I like to say, how are you going to pay for it? 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 717 billion military budget last year, 750 million military budget this year. Nobody asked where are those dollars coming from, where are they going to be used for. Then I went on Twitter for like 4 months and got told over and over again, get over it. Oh well, too bad, so sad. You don't support the troops, even though the money is going to staying in 150 different countries. Most of them have even done anything to us. It is stupid about printing out more money. Yeah, again, they defeat their own purpose. It's not going to solve anything. Let's see here. I think we're at the end of our rope, maybe, possibly, potentially. Senate Budget Committee. This is a big deal. The Senate Budget Committee on Thursday approved a GOP-backed budget resolution that would allow for draconian. I like that description. Like, that's how you know whoever wrote this is just like, man, I'm so sick of these people. I wish they were out of office. That would allow for draconian spending cuts by reducing both defense and non-defense spending for 2020. The resolution advanced in an 11-8 vote along party lines because, of course, it did. Nobody that's how you know that we have a Congress that is just this party hates the other one, so let's fight each other. This budget represents the important first step toward addressing our country's fiscal challenges and provides a path for us to begin working together to achieve real deficit reduction. Let's reread that. This budget represents an important first step toward addressing our country's fiscal challenges and provides a path for us to begin working together to achieve real budget reduction. So what about that? That sentence is wrong. To begin working together to achieve real deficit reduction. And then right before that, it says the resolution advanced an 11-8 vote along party lines. So when you have a budget that only is approved by one party, how in the hell is that working together, working with the other team? So I'm saying, like, it's just when you read this stuff and the way these articles are formatted, like they give you subtle hints that the person who's saying it is full of crap. Only time they ever get together to do anything is when they to be in a war to deregulate a bank. That's why that new Fed chair Powell, I think he got like 88 votes in the Senate. It was like Bernie and 10 other people that voted against him. Don't they have to cut down more trees in order for them to print out money, which then increases the carbon dioxide and such? Then they complain about the weather. Yeah. Let me see. Okay, Mark said, really, it's the interest that makes it impossible to pay off the debts. I don't dispute that. I didn't claim to be I'm not going to come on here and pretend to be some expert on the economy. I'm not, even pushing up that tree. But you can read the start of this article and know that the person who wrote it is like, yeah, this is not the case. I'm trying to see if I can find a part where they specify what it is. The Senate's budget sticks to legal caps for defense, falling from 716 billion to 643 billion, including off-book funds and non-defense, which would drop from 640 billion to 542 billion. This overall reduction would amount to 126 billion. The spending blueprint also would decrease spending on Medicaid, children's health insurance, and the Affordable Care Act subsidies by 281 billion, and on Medicare by 77 billion. So this budget, in my opinion, is a piece of crap. Like I said, you never see them cut the military. Just anything that has to do with the people, they'll screw with you, and then the same people go back and vote for them. So I said America's going to hell because the people let themselves get screwed over. Whether you like Trump or not, there's no reason to cut Medicaid after promising you wouldn't mess with it. Sorry. Get mad all you want. It's like I said, I give him credit when it's stuff like getting out of a war, but all the rest of this I don't go along with. So this is just the fools, man. Yeah. And you got to ask yourself, what are they doing with it? Because think about it, David. If you've been in for the last since when did Yemen start? 2015. So if you've been in 7 wars for at least the last 4 years, and half of that time has been under Trump, right? Who's heralded by the right as a difference from Obama, but then you're still stuck in these same wars. You got to ask yourself, what is the effectiveness of these budget reductions and decreases, all that jive? Having this hiccup come, that's why my went like that a little bit. But think about it: if the situation never changes year after year, president after president, what's the difference? There actually isn't an article about Obama cutting Social Security. I probably should share it, but I can't find it right now. So again, this isn't something that Trump started, but it's still that's my point. That when I say they're the same, people call me stupid, tell me that I'm working for Putin, Soros, whoever. It's like they really thought the best way to influence elections was to get some dude that can't even get half a dozen people to come in his live stream. That's their actual theory. So yeah, that makes sense. All right, you've caught me. You stumbled across my dastardly plan to get paid to speak about these politicians and their day-to-day business, and then I guess Russian daddy spreads me some dollars from Moscow. Oh hell, Jesus! Like the Hellenges, we have a little reverse, little angel and devil thing going on. I bet a bunch of you didn't even catch that because it went by so quick. I didn't even intend to make that kind of comparison, but it was just something that happened. So I think that's probably the end of. Oh, let me do this one because I like this one too. All right. A new bill from a House Democrat would ban Medicaid funding from being used for conversion therapy for LGBTQ people. Representative Sean Patrick Maloney, who co-chairs the Congressional LGBT Equality, I'm sorry, I get the letters. It slows me up a little bit. Equality Caucus introduced the prohibition of Medicaid funding for Conversion Therapy Act on Thursday. So many people, so many representatives, I don't even know who these people are. Conversion practices are discredited, harmful, and not therapy, Maloney said in a statement. Fundamentally, conversion tactics are based on the idea that a person's gender identity or sexual orientation are diseases to be cured. They have no legitimate medical application and should not be used anywhere. I mean, you can feel any kind of way you want about gay people. I already said before I'm for gay marriage, but like I don't think they should use funding to go around and go, hey, let's waste our time trying to convert somebody who we think is only screwed up because they like people of the same gender. We're not going to use the federal funding of Medicaid to convert, I don't know, murderers into people who are actually sympathetic for the crimes they did. No, we're going to go after someone whose only offense was gender identity. They don't care about the people they call the majority minorities, and people agree to this, not knowing that it means you can't handle full responsibility and you're still a child. Yeah. I think I wish you could have seen it, David. What's her name? The representative from Massachusetts put out a bill that was going to lower the voting age to 16, and like the whole argument was that you let 16-year-olds drive, you let them have jobs. In some cases, they can go to war, so they should have the same privilege of voting as an 18-year-old because they have all they perform the same task. I thought that was a fair argument. I actually thought that made a lot of sense, and because I also don't think that in 700 days people just magically transform into someone else. So when I went online and saw one of my Twitter followers, bad mouthing this idea, and then I saw another one trying to crap on the wages. I'm like, oh my god, you know what? Fine, let's be stupid too. Instead of lowering the voting age, let's raise it to 110, and let's lower the minimum wage to $1 because you guys like to tell me that if it's $1 more, it's going to destroy the economy. Let's just be stupid now. So all this medical stuff is a scam. I'm surprised people haven't even seen through this. Yeah, well, like I said before, where are they going to see through it? They don't go on channels like this, where because one of the problems with bigger channels like TYT and some of the other networks is you have to pay them to even be able to get someone to actually read what you have to say. Over here, if it's something that is receptive to what I'm saying, like actually the person speaking, we already saw a low disagreement. I still read his thing, so the attention is paid over here a little bit more evenly, I would say. But yeah, with them, I just said, like, these are the kind of people I can't reason with because they sit up here and they badmouth some new idea and they act like it's going to destroy the world. Like, if you guys were so worried about the 16-year-olds voting for Democrats, then why don't you have some Republicans that appeal to them too? Why don't you actually have them accept the fact that most people support gay marriage and just start running candidates that aren't trying to reverse that right? Why don't you run some who can articulate why we need to get out of these wars? Like, it's none of this is about making sure one party stays in power, ain't that crap. But these people go online, they make it seem like this is all designed so that you can continue to be in office. Like they've stumbled across some kind of secret cabal. Like, man, go away. Not that smart. So I say my point that a lot of this stuff really isn't that complicated. People just make it seem like it's a lot harder to realize than it actually is. So that's pretty much the news for today. All the stuff I thought was important. There's probably some other stuff I can talk about tomorrow. And it's just a test, seeing if you prefer this format of one story to another story to another story to another story. Because I think that too often I try to artificially inflate what I have to say about something. And if it's in this type of manner, there's a higher chance of just speak about this, then that, then this, and it doesn't seem as if you're trying to make it bigger than it actually is. And a lot of these issues do piss me off, and I think they do warrant attention. Um, but hey, if yeah, I can't speak for 90 minutes about everything, so it is what it is. Thank you for watching, David. I appreciate it. I know Mark went to sleep. Load is passed out on his couch somewhere, but thank you for showing up. Have a good Friday.